Points on the coordinate plane. So we're going to explore and extend the coordinate plane from what you learned in 5th grade. Today's I can describe a coordinate plane that has 4 quadrants. I can plot points with negative coordinates on the coordinate plane, and I know what negative numbers in coordinates tell us. So make sure you have today's date, page number, ICANS, and be excited. Let's move on. All right, we're just going to talk a little bit about coordinate plane. So this is a coordinate plane like you did in 5th grade. So what's the vertical one? Yep, the y-axis. And what's across? X-axis. Yep. And in an ordered pair, when you write an ordered pair, what always goes first? Yeah, whatever the x-coordinate is and the y-coordinate. That doesn't mean that you can't find something by going to the y first, but that when you find it listed, it's always the x-coordinates first and then the y. So let's dig deeper into the coordinate plane. Terminology time. I would jot down all of this information and definitely draw this out here. So, coordinate plane is divided into 4 regions called quadrants. The quadrants are numbered using Roman numerals, starting at the top right corner. All that you've done so far to this point is in the first quadrant. And we'll talk about the second, third, and fourth and how they work and what goes on with them. Okay, so make sure you've got that sketched out real quick. Okay, so in the first quadrant here that you have done quite a bit, we know that all the numbers are positive. However, we talked about having 0 here, and as we've learned about with the number line, the coordinate plane can do the same thing. You can have negatives off of it. So in the second quadrant here, your x-axis is negative, your y-axis is still positive. When you go to your third quadrant, that's where you have actually the opposite, basically, of what the first quadrant is, isn't it? Because look, you've got your y-axis is all negative, and so is your x-axis. And then your fourth quadrant is opposite of what the second quadrant is. So instead of the x-axis having negatives, you have the y-axis having negatives, and the other one is positive. So what would be the ordered pair for each of these? What about A? Now for A, should have had 3 and, 4 for the y. Okay. What about B? Yep, we go over 4, negative 4. And the y is, positive 2. What about C here? Yeah, the tricky thing is to remember that which one goes first. Even though this is going, down underneath 0, we're still going to label x first. So we have negative 5. Then we have 1, 2, negative 3. D. Yeah, D should have been 4 on the x-axis and negative 2 on the y. E. Yep, that's a negative 2 and a 5 on the y. And F. Yeah, so the x is 3. But look, it's not quite at the 1 or the 4, negative 5 or negative 4. It's actually about halfway in between. So we're going to go with that as negative 4.5 or negative 4 5/10. Okay. if I looked at, let's say, we talked about all those. If I look at G here as being 5, 2, which quadrant would it be in? Yep. It's going to be in quadrant 1, right? Because both the X and the Y are positive. What about H? Shows a negative X and a negative Y. Yeah, this is going to be in the third quadrant, isn't it? How do I know? Because both coordinates are negative and the third quadrant has negative numbers. What about here? Well, it could be in the second or the fourth quadrant, but we have to look what's going on. We have a positive Y or X axis and a negative Y axis. So that means it's in the fourth quadrant. So if a point has a positive coordinate, a positive Y coordinate, which quadrant is it going to be in? Yeah, so if it's a positive Y coordinate, then it could be in quadrant 2 or quadrant 1 because both of those have positive Y's. So if a point has a negative X coordinate, what quadrant can it be in? Yeah, it can be in the second quadrant or it could be in the third quadrant, right? Because remember, in the second quadrant, we're going to the left of 0 on X. So that means that those are negatives. Well, those negatives could be for the second or the third. What about a negative Y quadrant? Or what negative Y coordinate? Where would that be? Yeah, again, negative is going to be going down. So it's going to be quadrants 3 and 4. And what about if it has a positive X coordinate? What quadrant would it be in? Yeah, so that would mean it's going to the right. Doesn't matter about the Y. We're just looking for a positive X. So that would be in either quadrant 1 or quadrant 4. All right, let's do some coordinated archery. All right, so here we have a bullseye or an archery target. We've got a coordinate plane to help us figure out some different things. So in the yellow, that's the most points. Red gets 8, blue 6, green 4, and then you've got the white area that gets you 2. So what's a possible coordinate for 6 points? Well, 6 points is blue, right? So you could have said something like -2, -3, -2. Could have done something like -3, -6, -7, -4. Any of those would work. So I'm just going to list one of those. Oops, I did this backwards, didn't I? After all my saying, make sure you do it in the right order. Whoopsies. Yeah, at least I caught it. That's the important thing. I knew something was wrong, and I caught it. All right. What about 10 points? Yeah, 10 points is in the yellow, so let's go. You can go here or here as far as directly on. You know, you've got the fractional points. I'm going to, oops, I meant to leave that. I'm going to go ahead and for that one, get the other one back on here. All right, for that one, I'm going to go dead center. So let's see. It's between -4 and -5. So it's going to be halfway. -4 5/10. And -4. Okay, what about 2 points? Yeah, that's any of this white region here, so I'm going to go ahead and pick, yeah, right there. Why not? Let's see. Be a negative. Oops, that's -8. Misread that. -4 or -1, excuse me. And you could do a lot of points in there, right? Would -9 and -4 work? Yeah, -9, -4 would work just fine because you're going back -9 and you're going down -4. You could do even this point here, which is -6, -8. Lots of different options there. What about one for no points? Yeah. We could do 1, 2. Anything off of the target's not going to be worth any points. So the point of this is that as you're going through, you can put all kinds of different points. And I know that you've answered some questions that had more points than what I had, but they still were possible for each of these. All right, when we get into the practice problems and the cool down, that'll help us with understanding more. So I'm going to go ahead and stop here, and we are set to move on.